Welcome everyone for this session, Datascript tips and tricks. So we have only 25 minutes, so we should get started right now. We are 1 minute late. So just these slides that you know already. And the agenda for today is, so roughly who knows AVI? Do you know AVI? Most of you. F5? Good, nobody is perfect. Right. So AVI, what it is, Datascript, what it is, tips and tricks. A use case, actually, that it comes from a real request from those customers. So if you don't like it, they are the one to blame, right? And then we'll finish with this AVI conversion tool. So what is AVI? AVI is a software load balancer, right? So in AVI, you have basically the control plane, right, which is the brain of the solution. And you have also the service engines. Those guys, they are the data plane. They are the one doing the load balancing, the security for your application, your GSLB things. They are the one handling the traffic toward your application. And what we can do with this software-defined architecture is very cool for you because you guys, you benefit from it. We can run this same architecture for any of your environment, wherever they are running. AWS, VCF, Indeed, Google Cloud, Azure, you name the environment. It provides elasticity and resiliency. So you can scale the amount of service engines that you need, right? We provide also built-in automation and also analytics and observability. So this is a very quick introduction about the product. We are not here to explain you all the different things about the product. We are here to tell you how to use something called the Datascript, right? So what is a Datascript? Actually, a Datascript is like in F5, you have something very well known, which is called the I rules, right? So in F5, you are using a lot the I rules to basically change the behavior of the data plane. In AVI, we don't call this I rules, we call this Datascript, right? So you are scripting how you want the traffic to be handled, right? So in this example, for instance, I have like an application, just a load balancer here, and this is normal load balancing toward my application servers. But maybe you didn't notice here, but in this example, I have a square, and here I have a circle. So something is not good, right? So at the middle, my load balancer or my service engine needs to change this guy to make sure that he can fit this circle. And you have a proper example here. Basically, the request is /index.html, and your backend servers, your application servers, they expect the traffic to land with this /foo/index.html. So something needs to be done. In an F5 world, you will use a lot of I rules. In an AVI world, we don't want you to use Datascripts. We want you to use Datascript only if you need to. Why? Because as any script, it's not easy to maintain a script, right? You know what is happening? You have one guy, he is writing a super complicated script, he is leaving your company and nobody knows how it works. So most of the time what we want you to use is the native features of the product, right? And basically the flow to understand is when you are looking for a specific feature, we want you to check the profile, right? And then if you cannot do something with the profile, check the policy. And as a last resort, maybe you want to use Datascript if you cannot achieve what you want to do. So just again, a quick reminder, don't use scripting for everything. Just use scripting when you have to use it as a last resort solution, right? Now what you need to understand is the way how Datascript handles the traffic. Before and after Datascript, you have different things that are processed, right? So you have like the flow. And obviously, here, this is basically your load balancer, this gray box here. And traffic will come, we will inspect the layer 3, and then the layer 4, the layer 5, and of course the application layer. And then we will go exactly the opposite thing when the traffic flows towards the application server. This seems to be quite easy to understand, right? But the reality is we are doing plenty of things. And when you create a data script, you need to understand this flow of order. So basically, you need to understand that, of course, at the beginning, we will handle this TCP session, then the SSL, then client authentication. But here you have some different things that you can leverage, right? You can say, hey, I want to create an HTTP policy. In this case, HTTP policy will be in this specific location. And if you need to create like a data script, maybe you need to know that Datascript is going after the HTTP policy, right? Because if you create something on your HTTP policy which contradicts something that you have on your Datascript, this will not work well. So in our documentation, we have this fully documented where you can see exactly the order of things and how they work. What else? Well, when you write a Datascript, you need to have some knowledge about the scripting language first. So Datascript relies on programming language which is called Lua, L-U-A, and basically you can leverage this script based on events. So you can say, I want to use this script, for instance, based on an event. It can be an HTTP request or it can be an HTTP response, right? And within the script, you have some functions. Some of the functions, they are native from the Lua programming language. And what we have done, we have added some functions which are dedicated for AVI, right? So you can say, hey, I want to write a data script, and when this data script is basically heated, I want to make sure I generate a log. How you will do that? Just use this function here, right? And then, of course, as any programming language, you will use like logic to create your script. So you need different operators, you need some different type of logic, like if this criteria is met, then I go to this operation, this function, and so on and so forth. So this is, let's say, the foundation when you want to create data scripts. So here we have a few examples where we want to show you how to troubleshoot data scripts. Because the problem is always the same. You write a script, the documentation says you need to do like this, and at the end, it does not work. So how to troubleshoot? Well, a few things to say here. We have different examples here, but when you basically go through data scripts, we will generate some logs. And I will show you this live afterwards, right? We generate logs, and those logs, they help you to identify what is the problem. So here you see that you have a problem on line number 3 here, right? So something is missing here. Well, this string here like this, it's a little bit weird, right? So something was missing. So you need to understand again by the logs, you can spot, you can see exactly where the problems are. And think about also some basic programming language, right? If you have like a string and you want to do some math on the string, like in this case here, this guy is a string, and you want to do like a plus, a sum, which this guy here, this will not work, right? So again, what we are doing here, this will generate an HTTP 500, and this HTTP 500, actually, you will see it on the log, and you will see some errors directly on the analytics and the observability of AVI. We will review that a little bit later, right? Again here, when you have a Datascript problem, all the time we generate this specific response. You will see it later. And what you can do, you take this request ID, you copy it, you go to the analytics of your application, and eventually you will find exactly the log and the explanation why this does not work. Something very, very useful. When you do those kind of things, always put some logs, right? Because you want to make sure that if you have, for instance, an if statement, you want to make sure that you guys, you are going to this if statement. So if you add this AVI VS log, later you go to the logs, and this will generate a log. So you can witness yourself, you can just double check that your logic is properly implemented, right? So those are like best practice for you to make sure that you have something working, right? You see here, we have this string which was generated by one of these AVI VS log thing here. All right, let's talk about a real use case. My use case is the following. So I have one customer, and again, they are here. I don't want to put you on the spot, but they are here, right? And they came to the booth, I think it was yesterday or the day before, on Monday, right? And they said, by the way, we have a use case, and we don't know how to achieve this. So the use case is, you have a URI, right, like an HTTP request. It's going to this specific FQDN, and they want basically to see normal load balancing, right? So you see here, traffic is going to each different server. Good. This, we can achieve this without any Datascript. The complicated request was, well, I want to check for a specified request. You see here we have this specified parameter on the request, and if this parameter is existing, I want to make sure that I'm going always to the same server. Here, I don't need any form of stickiness. I can go to each different server, but when I see this in the request, I want to make sure that I will always go to the same server. It can be this one, that one, or the last one, we don't care, right? But we want to make sure we have this persistency. And if you check this in the RV UI, you check for the profile, you check for the policy, you can check, but you will never find this, right? So this is a use case where a Datascript makes a lot of sense. So instead of showing you this PowerPoint, I want to show you this exactly live. So let's move to the demo. Is it big enough for you? Okay, let me just move it. Okay. All right. So, first of all, I want to check that my application is working, right? So I just have this basic curl while true loop. So I'm sending basically traffic towards this application, right? And you can see that sometimes this is a .11 which is responding, and sometimes this is a .12. So if I go back to my PowerPoint here, so we are doing this use case here. So this one is working. Fine. I don't need anything else. I want to handle this one here. So what I will do, I will go to my RV UI here. And first of all, I want to show you that analytics is quite important, right? So you know that in the background I have my curl command running, and we can see all the requests. How can I filter this so easily? You see the filter here? I just say I want to see all the requests going to this application with a source IP equals .11, right? And now I can see all the traffic going to this application. That's cool. But now I want to achieve what I told you. So again, I'm going to my RV controller here, and I want to check my Datascript. So I have created a Datascript here, and this Datascript is doing some stuff on two events. Event number one, as you can see, is the request. Event number two is the HTTP response. So I don't want to explain all the things, right, because we have limited time, right? But I want to show you very, very quickly what it looks like. So right now I'm saying, hey, there is a timer, and this is 2 minutes, right? So this is the starting point. My pool is called this specific pool, fine. And the server on this pool, they are listening on port 80. Good. Now I'm saying if you see in the get query, so we are checking the request, right? If there is a S something, then what you want to do is to make sure that you assign this specific value, as you can see here, to this variable. And then, again, I want to log this because I want to make sure it works. So I'm saying I will send a log to this, to my analytics with this value here. It will tell me this is a URI value. So I can know exactly if it works or not. And then after I say, by the way, if this specific variable exists, what I want to do is I want to decide if I need to use a specific server or if I can use a server of my choice, right? So basically what I'm doing a lookup on a specific table, right? And if this table exists, I will select this server because I know that previously traffic was going to this server. Or if it does not exist, what I will do here, I will just basically go and do like a default server selection. So I have two options here. Option one is before I already received some traffic, therefore I want to configure the stickiness with the same server, or no server was selected before, so I will use this default server selection and use exactly the function that I'm calling here, right? So this is the request. Quite simple, right? And the response here is just, this one is even shorter here. This response says, well, again, if there is this variable defined, so basically if there is a S something on my response here, I want to make sure that in this case, I have the selected server and I will update a table. So in the background, I will maintain a table and I will make sure that this table will be refreshed with the timer that I have defined above. You remember the 2 minutes, right? So I am sure that I will reuse this value later. And if this table or if this server does not exist, what I will do, I will create this persistency entry here. And again, I want to log this event, and I want to create this table, and I want to update the table with a timer, right? So this is exactly what we want to do here. So what I will do here, first I will go back, and I want to make sure that without this control script here, actually maybe it's already applied, let me check. Yeah, so let me remove this guy first. Okay, and if you come here, now you see that the traffic with this specific query is going to my .11 and .12. So you know that load balancing is working with this poor round-robin algorithm, but it's very visual, so it's very helpful in this case, right? Now I want to apply the Datascript. So what I will do, I will go to my virtual service here. I will just edit the configuration. Again, I cannot achieve this with like built-in features. So I'm going to go under the policies, Datascript, and here I want to add this Datascript, this guy here, DS2. I save the Datascript, I save. And now let's go back here, and we should go always to the same server, as you can see here, .12. So let me stop this kind of while true loop here, and let me just check the analytics. So I want to refresh this guy, and at some point, if I show you like a request, I want you to understand how it is valuable to do some logs. You see here, you have all the tools to troubleshoot your Datascript. What do you see here? You see that the URI value was s.abc. Exactly what I sent on my request, if you remember, right? So I know that my if statement is working. I can see that on my logs. What else? Well, here it says, oh, by the way, I know that in this table that I have updated at my first request, I know that the server IP was .12. That's why in the script, in the curl, and the SSH terminal, you remember you saw this .12, right? And then here we say, hey, because we are going again to this server, I want to refresh the timer of 2 minutes. So I know by doing that, that all the time, my requests, they will go to this server, of course, if there is this URI which is matching this specific pattern here, right? So very quickly, in like what, 10 minutes, we have built this Datascript. Again, the message here is don't do for Datascript for anything, right? Because it's not easy to maintain them, especially on the long time perspective. So we want to make sure that you understand that this logging capability is very, very important. Remember, if you want to see only, let's say, the request that you are interested in here, you can do those kind of filter. client IP equals, or anything here is actually something that you can use here. Let's say I want to just check this specific thing here. I can say, hey, I want to see only the request when it's equal to ABC, right? And in this case, you see all the requests where you need to maintain this kind of stickiness, this kind of persistency. So this is an example of a Datascript, and I will share this with you, don't worry, no problem at all. And what I'm keen also to tell you is, if you guys, you have some F5, and you are worrying about, I have I rules, right? And I need to migrate those I rules to Datascript. First of all, keep in mind that 60 to 70% of the I rules, you don't need Datascript. You can use a profile, you can use a template, you can use something else than a script. And for the other things where you need Datascript, we have something which is called the converter, right? So basically, this is something that we want to tell you. The converter is something that can read basically your F5 configuration. So you can go and just copy your bigip.conf, right? You take this bigip.conf on this RV converter tool, and this will translate basically the I rules to the RV Datascript if this is required. Just to give you an example and to give you some data on this, we are confident to achieve like a translation of above 50% of your I rules. So I'm not telling you this will translate anything, because some I rules are extremely complicated, right? But this will translate a good amount of your I rules if you need to do so, right? So this is what I had for today. I'm not sure what time is it. Yeah, it's not too bad. So before the Q&A, first, if you can scan this, and if you can just give me a good remark if you like the session, that will be very helpful. And the last thing that I want to share with you is we run quite a lot of RV workshops on a regular basis. Those workshops, they are free of charge, right? You can come for 1 day, 2 days, or 3 days. I'm sure you will learn few things about the product. If you are US based, we have the same in the US. If you are European based, we do the same here. And if you want to register to those workshops, you can just scan this specific QR code, and you will get to this registration page where you can go and see all the workshops available in the next few days. Having said that, thank you so much, guys. Thank you for your time. I know it's hard the afternoon. It's hard for me as well, don't worry. But happy to have run this session. Thank you. Any question, let me know.